ladies and gentlemen, to our counter talk here at Formnext 2021. As you already know, each night of the Formnext I'm at a different booth meeting one of the VIPs here at the Formnext to talk about their novelties and their highlights at today's trade show day. And today I'm at the ACAM talking to Professor Dr. Johannes Henrich Schleifenbaum.
Oh, difficult name. Good.
General Manager of the Aachen Center of Additive Manufacturing.
Perfect.
I'm so pleased to be here. And I would say we start with a fresh beer. Is it an Aachen beer? No.
No, it's actually, unfortunately, we were famous for also brewing, but there's only little breweries left and only local, so we stick to the most common.
Anyway,
we don't want to make commercials.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Cheers.
It's still cold. That's good. That's good. Well, let's talk.
A bit colder.
A bit, but we'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll give it a second shot.
Let's talk about today. That was the very first day of Formnext. And I had the impression that everybody here on the trade show was so happy to be back again in person, right? Not with a digital format. Yeah. What was your experience?
Yeah, actually, we all missed it so desperately. And, you know, as you experienced throughout the media in the last days, the numbers of the virus were rising, and we were all a bit, does it really happen? And I just told you right away, once I walked down the hallway and I saw literally no person, and then just make that little turn around the corner, and everybody was there and everything was crowded. And we were all so happy to be here. And it's really, I think it's the best thing that we could have done, to be here in person, to interchange, to get into contact, to really get into talks. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Okay.
I would never liked it.
So 1.5 years in our home offices, 1.5 years with lockdowns and all the things that everybody knows. What did the AM community do in the meantime? Did it further develop, or did they went to sleep?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you will definitely have read that throughout the media that I don't know how many projects there were in printing face shields, in printing auxiliaries, in printing respiratory devices, in printing everything. And there we see really the benefit and the glance of additive manufacturing, how versatile it can be. And that's actually my first takeaway and my best takeaway for the day. If you ask me for any highlights and how it developed, it's applications. It's applications. We see more and more applications. Still, they are somehow hidden under some, covers, and not everybody's allowed to talk about everything. But applications rule.
You mean real life stuff, right?
Real life stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not only. I mean, we are part university, partly industrial, and of course, the most things we are printing are some sort of cubes, coupons, and everything like that. Uh-huh. But we see it here that everybody who is around here is striving for applications, and we see so many just walk around the hallway, walk around the booth, many materials, many new materials, new manufacturers. But in the end, it can be, from my point of view, all boiled down. We find more and more applications and make the cake bigger for additive manufacturing becoming a serious industry. And that's my takeaway.
And I think it's a good sign that in the meantime, the community has grown up. It's not that startup thing only. It's still a lot of startup here, right? Yeah. But I think it has grown up. How does that feel for you? Because in the past, that was kind of fancy, being in an industry which is so cool. Yeah. Has it lost its coolness or not?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think we make the best out of the two worlds. If you take me, for instance, I'm coming from the conventional 5-axis machine tool industry, and once you enter that trade fairs they are more, a bit stiffer, a bit more like, conventional style.
Yeah.
It's a bit different. And on the other hand side, we had that cool and fancy startups, but since we are growing to a mature industry, we want to make business, we need to make business, and now we try to unite those worlds. And actually it's not some sort of, as it was given from a power above, it happens naturally. And that's all around again applications. It's the people coming together, having problems, finding the right AM solutions, connecting them, and then whoop, you're there.
And hey, we are wearing suits.
Yeah.
So
still, do you read that article on Spiegel Online?
No.
Where that Karl Lagerfeld saying that if you wear a jogging suit, your life is not under control anymore, and then they turn it around and showing a picture of Jeff Bezos wearing a vest. If you wear a suit, your life is not under control anymore.
Let's talk about the young people you are having so much contact to. So is the AM industry, the AM community, more attractive and appealing to younger people, to students, for example? And do they prefer that kind of technology instead of the, let's say, old-fashioned machine building, manufacturing stuff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you take a walk around, you will still see many young folks here, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
with t-shirts.
Yeah, really. And imagine that, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, going to Hanover Mess or Hanover Trade Fair. Or
don't touch it.
I think they won't even let you in.
Yeah.
My feeling. Yeah. And I think that is really something that is still unique for the industry, for additive manufacturing, that it's such a cool stuff that you can print each and everything. Still, Thingiverse is playing a lot of an important role there, but transforming that into industrial applications, coming really from the people. They've got the creativity, they've got that in their mind, and now they find out and figure out that there's a way to produce by one click what is in your mind, getting in the palm of your hand. That's cool by nature.
And will those young guys change the other industries as well?
Definitely. Like with a cell phone. How can you imagine today not having the internet mobile with you? And that came basically from the private sector. And I think with additive manufacturing it's pretty much the same. You can buy those cheap printers. And some guys here, of course, from the industrial side are laughing, oh, those cheap printers. But, and here's the but, it's coming from the private sector. And once you start playing with that and printing your own parts, you take that with you to work, and then transforming the processes that gradually and eventually it will all be a sort of layer-wise production in the end as well.
Got you.
I think I'm personally totally convinced that this will happen. It's driven more from, no, it's not only driven, but it's driven from both sides. From the market side, more applications, and from the young people side that are using the technology quite naturally.
Mm-hmm. You know, one exciting thing I heard today was that somebody said, the community has changed concerning the way they cooperate. So in the very beginning, those startups, they were fighting for themselves. There were some kind of singular companies. Now in the meantime, they have learned to cooperate, to build up networks. And we can see it here on your wall. The signs are getting bigger because the groups are getting bigger. Is that an advantage of the AM community to be open for corporations?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there are two driving forces which are sort of force us to have a trade-off. On the one hand side, the real cool applications, they're providing you economic benefits. And that's why, besides we see all those applications here, there are many hidden underneath some sort of, or hidden in a treasure, as a treasure, hidden in some tiny little corner which are not allowed to show. On the other hand side, we realize that we want to really, if we want to really grow that cake to a larger extent and to make real big industry of it, we see that there's a need for an ecosystem where we need collaboration, where one single player does not solve the whole problem. And if you take that additive manufacturing, I mean, normally it starts from the very design, and then it starts from getting powder, and then it starts from printing that into a certain type of machine, and then it starts from post-processing. So you can identify many process steps, and you realize that none of those companies are involved here, can do them on their own. And so I think there's really a need, and not only the need, but also the will to collaborate. And I think that's unique also for that industry.
I'd like to take the advantage of having you with me and ask you one question I'm wondering about for a longer time now. What do you think are the major mistakes that people are doing with 3D printing? I, for example, heard that people have difficulties to say, look, we have a product like this, and we are producing that since ages in conventional production systems, and now we're trying to convert that into 3D printing in additive manufacturing, and it doesn't work. So we don't believe in this technology. Might that be one of the big mistakes that people are doing with AM?
Yeah, if I turn it around, I think the problem is quite right. You addressed it quite right, but the problem is twofold. On the one hand side, we say, okay, we start being a bit drastic. If you are a designer, how do you design? You normally take a copy of a certain design that you've made in the past, put that in front of your screen and try to gradually change it. And then you are there with a new design. But you normally start not with a function. What is this? I mean, it's obviously meant to contain beer. In other words, or in an additional function, it would also be nice if you keep it cool. So maybe we could integrate some cooling structures, and then it becomes a more value add, which we can adopt. So we need to think in functions rather than in parts that we have in front of us and then just transforming the production technology. On the other hand side, and that's what makes the problem really drastic, is the expectations management. If you run around here at Formnext or even at Euromode before, decades before, and especially since 2010, there was that expectation that 3D printing will change the whole world and everything. And if you go with that expectation and say, okay, now I can print everything and I don't have to change it, just replace it by printing, and there it becomes a vicious circle. And we have to cut that. And that is the point where I think the problem is twofolded. You have the absolute must to change the design, and on the other hand side, you need to be careful and you need to be aware of what is possible and what not.
Okay, sounds great. Professor Dr. Schleifenbaum, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure being here. We will meet the next days. I'm looking forward to that.
And I'll say cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bim bam.
On time.